Hi everybody, it's Cheryl, and we got a question about 5 hours ago. It posted in the group, and I wanted to address it with all of you and just have a little casual chat here. So the question is from Heather Joy Rosario, and it starts like this. I just bought my first deck of tarot cards today. It appears to have been returned and repackaged before I bought it. I'm nervous about opening it up and fully investigating it in my home. I don't even want to bring it in the house. It's still on the porch. I don't know if there's any negative energies attached to it from the person who was the first one to have unboxed it. The package is in very good shape except for one small tear in the outer box and a smaller one on the inner box. I don't sense anything either way when I handle it. Hold on, something just popped up. When I touch it, I don't think the cards themselves were unpacked, but I can't know without unpacking them myself. And I hesitate to do that because if something is attached, I feel as if that's when it would be released to run amok. My question is, can a negative energy be attached to something like this? And if so, how do I get rid of it and attune the deck with my own energy? Any suggestions or feelings are welcome and appreciated. And several of you gave very helpful suggestions, and I just wanted to address it myself because there are a lot of interesting points to bring up around this question. Okay, so first of all, a lot of what we've been taught surrounding intuition and spirituality is very fear-based, and a lot of it comes from outdated concepts that came up through organized religion. And I don't mean to disorganize religion. There's a lot of good in it, but there's also a lot of fear attached to it for a lot of people. And you guys, we are in a new age. And by that, I don't mean, that the new age is overtaking Christianity and, that there's this whole division. It's a different perspective on who we are. We are intuitive beings, okay? And oracle cards are one tool that you can use to get in touch with your intuition, all right? And we have to release a lot of the fear that surrounds psychic tools and around our own intuition. So I want to show you something. This is a deck of oracle cards. It is a tool. This particular one is called Magical Times Empowerment Cards, and I bought this deck for my 8-year-old daughter last year, and she's been using it and loving it. And I should just show you a card here. Very pretty, very nice. There's a little dolphin there. Destiny. Okay, here's the first. Acknowledge your mission, align with your purpose. You have gifts to share with the world. Isn't that a beautiful message? Hi guys. I see a lot of you popping on. Thank you for joining me. So we're just talking about oracle cards and how to clear the energy of a deck that you may get and how to work with psychic tools in general. So I promise you, since my daughter has been using these cards occasionally, her head hasn't started spinning. She hasn't vomited any pea soup any more than normal. We're okay. So, I mean, I want to get you guys beyond the fear that's attached to some of these things, and this is a big one. Now, there are some things that I would recommend doing with a new deck of cards, and so I'm going to lead you through that process in just a minute. But just so we understand each other about the reasons that we have any kind of a ritual cleansing to do with this tool. It's not that there's anything inherently dangerous about the tool itself, okay? So let's start here with something everybody understands. This is a tool. This tool can be used in a constructive way to build a house, to build a shelter, to do something that is useful for people, right? Or if I have absolutely no awareness of what I'm doing, no training, and no forethought about the consequences of my actions, I could throw this thing around willy-nilly and it could be a very destructive thing, okay? But you don't look at this and have a fear of this. It's just a tool. you might reasonably have a fear of a person who was wielding a hammer in a destructive way, but you wouldn't fear the hammer itself, right? Same thing with a deck of cards. All right? It's time to drop the fear and sort of the mystique surrounding these psychic tools. They are simply a way of tapping into your own intuition, and it's nothing to be feared. Okay, so let me tell you a little story. My mom has an antique store. Now she's doing yarn, and she has a tea room, and we used to do mediumistic readings there, galleries, and so on. One day, she came to me with a handwritten oracle book. It was in French. It was hand lettered in ink, like very old looking, like somebody might have done it with like a feather pen almost. That kind of like a fountain pen. It was black and red ink, hand lettered. It was absolutely gorgeous, all in French, and I love French. I'm a French teacher. And it had numbers and different sort of fortune telling kind of sentences there about, a different sort of outcome for each number. And we weren't sure where it was from, how old it was, how to use it, or anything like that. And she came to me and she said, what do you think of this? Is this, does this have like any icky energy attached to it? And I was like, well, I don't know. This was years ago. And I was sitting in my first circle. So I brought it to the circle. And I said, my mom wants to know if there's any icky energy attached to this. Is there anything, evil about this thing? What should we do with it? And so this item went before a board of mediums, and everybody practiced their psychometry on it and, held it and thought about it and got a vibe from it. And they were asked what kind of vibes they got from it. And it was predominantly negative. And so Mom burned that book. And I was never really sure that was the right thing to do. I didn't need it, but at the same time, it seemed kind of a shame to destroy something so beautiful. We didn't really have any evidence that there was anything evil about it, okay? But so be it, that's what happened. Now, looking back, I'm not surprised that several psychics, mediums, or even normal people would have found some kind of negative vibe attached to that particular item, because I know a little bit about psychology. And there's such a thing as the power of suggestion, first of all, okay? So often enough, if you tell somebody something like, I'm getting a feeling like da-da-da-da, are you getting that feeling too? Just because the way the human brain works, they will often agree with you, okay? So if you bring something to somebody with that suggestion, very good chance they're going to feel something icky about it too. But is it in the item or is it in our minds? That's the question. Just something to consider. The other thing is, we as humans also have some fears to deal with. And one of the biggest fears that we have is the fear of the unknown. This is something none of us had ever seen before. Like maybe 100 years ago, this was very common in a particular country, some French-speaking country, and everybody knew how to use it. I know French, so I know it wasn't a recipe book. But just saying, maybe it was very benign, but because we'd never experienced it before, we had this fear attached to it. We had this automatic reaction of, what do we do with this? Is this something dangerous? That comes from the reptilian mind, where everything is about fight or flight. And is this dangerous to me? Because we have that survival instinct, okay? It's just a remnant of our ancestry as human beings that we have that fear reaction. We also have a rational mind that knows something about psychology, that can find out these answers, okay? And if you do some research, you will find out where a lot of our fear comes from in terms of the history of spirituality and women's intuition and psychic tools, etc. And I would suggest you even look into the powers that be that might want to suppress our ability to tap into our own intuition. But that's a whole other rabbit hole I don't feel like going down right now. So let's talk about the oracle cards. Is there a reason to clear the energy of a deck? Okay, that being said, with the whole fear thing, that we really need to just get over these fears. Is there a reason to clear a deck? Yes, because we all have energy, and objects hold energy, and cards are no different. So one of the comments, by the way, I know that I understand where the person was coming from. They said, "Are you kidding me?" to that comment, that if you missed it, somebody was asking about getting a new deck of tarot cards and wondering about whether it's safe to bring them in the house. And somebody said, "Are you kidding me?" Because that person has experienced using tarot cards and knows that there's nothing to fear. Hi everybody. But to somebody who's brand new to it, I understand where they're coming from, because I was there once, and I understand all the fears that people have attached to psychic tools like oracle cards. So I just want to remind everybody in the group to be gentle. You know, your experience level might be up here, but somebody who's just coming into the group might have never touched a tarot card before and may have lots of fears to be disabused of. Okay, so let's be gentle with each other, and like our admin Kathy said, let's speak of our own experience. You know, in my experience, this is what I've encountered, and this is how I do such and such. That's great. Share, and you know, you guys are welcome to give each other tips and pointers on questions that come up. I will be addressing major questions with you guys. And by the way, I have a whole program for you guys that are awakening light workers and want to learn intuitive skills, how to use psychic tools and all that. It's called the How to Speak Spirit program. Reach out to me if you're interested in that. But from time to time, I will do a little live training in here, and this is one of those times because I think it's so important. So you get a new deck of tarot cards or oracle cards. Okay. First thing that I would do is clear the energy of that deck. Not because you're worried about, you know, being possessed by demons or what have you, but because objects can hold energy. And the whole point of the deck is that you're getting in touch with your own intuition. So you don't want anybody else's remnants of their energy to interfere with your interpretation of what's coming up in the cards, okay? And get in the way of you tapping into your inner guidance, okay? Your higher wisdom and so on. So one of the easiest ways to clear the energy of a deck of cards, and this is good for, you know, those of you who are starting to do readings for your friends and so on. If you have the people picking out the cards and they're touching the cards, a good way to clear the deck in between those handlings is to just knock on the deck. You can knock 3 times if you want, okay? But just that creates a vibration that clears the energy of the cards. And you know what? It's not even about the process so much as the intention. The intention is the most important thing. So we want to make sure that we're coming to any kind of a psychic reading, you know, if you're going to a medium, etc. We want to come to the table having left our fear behind. That's the most important thing, okay? But you just knock on that deck, and then you want to infuse those cards with your own energy. So you can put it up to your heart. You can say a prayer if that resonates with you. You can just say some kind of positive, affirmative statement about how you wish that these cards be used for the highest good of all. You could ask Archangel Michael to ensure that any readings with these cards are true and accurate and for the highest good of all concerned. Whatever resonates with you, but have some kind of positive intention about why you are coming to the cards. Okay, and then you want to connect with the cards by looking at each one and touching each one. You can flip through the deck and just connect with the energy of each one of those cards. Okay, now while we're on that topic, you should choose a deck that makes you feel good, a deck that resonates with you, okay? So one of the things I liked about this particular deck is I like the language on the cards. There's something about healing, okay? I like the design with all the different colors. I like the horses and the mythical creatures and the butterflies and the sacred geometry and the fairies and all that. You know, it's positive and it's uplifting to me. There's nothing frightening about this particular deck. Excuse me, and that's why I picked it for my daughter. She's 8 years old, and she picked these up and she started, picking out cards that were right on, just the perfect message for that moment, for that person right away. That's how it should feel when you pick out a deck of tarot cards or angel cards or oracle cards. You pick a deck that resonates with you, that makes you feel good. Okay, so if you're picking up a deck and you're like, ooh, this is really scary, I don't know if I want to bring this in the house. Two things. It's not the deck for you, and you got to leave your fear behind before you pick up a deck and start using it, okay? Now, when I get a new deck, and I'm going to show you this briefly, we just went to England. Some of you, I saw just a couple people that were in England with us. Our second annual Translating Spirit trip. We went to Arthur Findlay to study mediumship for a week, and then we went to Glastonbury, and we went to the Chalice Well there, and we went to Stonehenge and Avebury and London. One of my favorite souvenirs that I picked up, and I haven't been using it yet, is this deck of oracle cards, and it just came out like a week before we got there. They just got it in the gift shop there at the Chalice Well. It's the Lemurian Starchild Oracle, right? And it says, I am a Lemurian Starchild. My joy flows naturally through many dimensions. Together we create a new earth. Okay, so I saw this. It was like there was a light around it. I went, that deck is for me, okay? And the more I look at it, the images, the language, it just resonates with me, okay? And those of you who identify with being an indigo or a crystal child or a star seed, any of that stuff, it would probably resonate with you too, okay? It's very positive. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. Okay, so this is pretty heavy duty. There's a huge book, 340-page guidebook. So I am not ready to give you guys readings with this deck, right? It's going to take me a little while to get my feet wet with it. But I'm going to show you the process of what I do when I get a new deck. I've got a ton of decks that I like. My favorite will always be the Mythic Tarot because I started using that as a teenager. All right, but when I get a new deck, I would unpackage it with some excitement, and I'm going to unwrap it, okay, and then I would grab some of my white sage that I got from a local metaphysical shop. We have a Planet Earth gallery here in the Poconos. All right, and I'm gonna just show you a little. It's gonna take time for this whole process, but what I would do is burn some of that white sage. White sage is one of the ways that you can clear any negative energy. Not that I feel there's anything negative attached to these cards. Like I said, I got it in Glastonbury at the Chalice Well. It was a completely positive experience, but I want to make this deck my own. So I want to clear any energy there from people delivering it or what have you, because it's my deck now. So I'm going to pass each one of those cards through the smoke, right? And this is an 88 card deck, so it would take a while. I don't want to bore you, but that's what I would do with each one of the cards. And I would look at each one of them and just connect with the artwork and the language on each one of those cards. Just feel the vibe of what's being said with that card. This one I'm looking at is breathing, and it says ground, feel sensations, purity, clarity, expression. All right. And the one next to it is purity. You are pure, open spiritual eyes. All right. So these are all positive messages. It feels good. I like the artwork. It's beautiful stuff. And I would just continue to take each one of those cards and just pass it through that sage smoke and look at it, read it. And then I'm going to connect further by going through the guidebook, and I'm going to do some readings for myself and play with it a bit, right? I'm going to infuse my energy into the cards. I'm going to set some positive intentions for how I'm going to use these cards and how they might be used to help other people. I will use a prayer because I like to do that. And before I start, using them professionally or giving readings to other people, I'm going to make sure that I've made this connection with these cards so that we've established a relationship and that my energy is in these cards, and I know what the energy of the cards is about and the messages that are in there. And that will help me to pick out the right card at the right time for the right person, because, you know, on an energetic level, I'm familiar with what's there. All right. So I will look forward to getting to know these cards better, and maybe we'll use them in the Practice Readings Trading Post, our sister group where we practice doing readings for each other. I would love to see some of you guys over there if you're ready to practice some of your spiritual skills. And like I said, if you guys are just starting out and you have questions, that's what we're here for. This group is all about asking questions and giving you some different perspectives, and most of all, helping people to overcome fears attached to getting in touch with your own intuition, your higher self, and communicating with spirit, because after all, we are all spiritual beings. So it's really just connecting back to ourselves. Nothing to fear there, right? So enjoy the journey, and let's talk some more. We'll see you guys soon. Reach out to me if you're interested in some classes to help develop your intuition and learn how to use these and other psychic tools.